Honorable Matthias Mpoga-Nsamba, let us just go straight to that. You said a statement on the floor of Parliament. How bad can it get?
Well, it can only get worse before it gets better, and which is why I have tried to make out a clear call to all and sundry to rise to the occasion. The actors, those in flight, those with a lot of confidence, those with a lot of ignorance, to simply slow down and understand that this is not a game to play, but it's a nation to lead and save and offer people services. But like it now looks like the dark clouds upon the horizon of Kawempe North inform us of even hard times ahead. First of all, you have a regime in the survival rank, and you have an opposition in disarray and able to speak to themselves, and each believing in their own power. Of course, some believing in their own ignorance as to how things should be done. And for me, that heralds danger. It heralds a bad omen for the future.
Sure, the bravado and everything that seems to come from the other side of the aisle is something that is worrying. But I want to engage you on the electoral reforms and as to whether they can speak to the solution that we could be looking for right now as we speak of violence in the Kawempe North by-election. You've met a number of parties. What are they saying? What is the Electoral Commission saying?
One of the misconceptions about reforms, because there are three lines of my argument. It's constitutional reforms, electoral reforms, and the transition. Part of what needs to be done is not necessarily legislation. Part of what needs to be done is an up-close conversation for each of the parties to address their fears. Because the fears we had about violence are already visiting us in Kawempe, which is why I call it a rehearsal of even bad times ahead. I met the Electoral Commission, and for what needs to be done, they said, give us the legislation, empower us to do it. It's you, Parliament. It's you, the parties, that are supposed to do that, not us. For us, we are implementers of the will. The will of the people is expressed through Parliament. Secondly, all the parties were in agreement that reforms are actually late. It's something we should have done a month back. But remember, I have been at this for the last 2.5 years. But I had a fear that probably the ruling party would not accept. And I pose the question, if you believe they will not accept reforms, how do you then think they will announce you as a winner in the next election? So it's a fool's hard for you to imagine that you're not going to push for reforms, but then you'll push for a declaration of your own victory. So I don't think it's late, and I believe the Kawempe by-election probably, with all its troubles, comes in time as a stark reminder of what we should have done months back. From the aftermath, we should give us enough education to say, can we even hurry a little more to try to recall this common sense about critical reforms, and because some of the reforms are not legislations, are critical commitments.
Certainly, but it looks like the military in the typical Ugandan fabric is highly and neatly woven within the fabric that makes up the state and the regime and our elections. How do they interface with? How do they speak to the element of militarism, and how do they eradicate it?
Invariably, the military is rehearsing a power grab, like it has done over the last couple of elections, because the elections were never free and fair, meaning that the military grabbed power from the people and handed it over to a particular outfit called NRM. And this is what we wanted to stop. One, the opposition, by working together and generate enough momentum throughout the country to demand for reforms, fresh legislation, and then commitments. You do not get commitment by making so many laws. Sometimes commitment comes by sitting on the table and have a conversation with the people you disagree with. You address their fears, they address their own fears to you, and then you find common ground. Our bad history, our checkered history of our political DNA, where the military sometimes, most of the time actually, determines the outcome of our elections, is actually being rehearsed. And that is the fear I've raised to Parliament, I've raised to the parties I have met, and asked of them that before we generate momentum of participating in the next election, can we find common ground to push for commitment from the ruling party, which is entwined with the state, to commit not to abduct people, to commit not to violence, commit to not killing people during elections, to even commit to change particular legislations so that we have an opportunity at a free and fair electoral process.
Certainly. Well,